My name is Evan Turner. I'm the Service Product Manager. I've been with the company for just over 10 years. So those who weren't in my session yesterday, I first joined back in 2004. And I've actually been in the industry, though, since 1992. So first started out as a technician and then went into various roles after that. Through that experience in my current role, I've been able to use some of that to help provide direction and guidance for the service module, talk to dealers like yourselves, and really make the most of technology to deliver the best solutions we can to you. So what's this session about? It's about how you can help, or how we can help you increase efficiency and productivity in your dealership today. So up on screen there you'll see a diagram that depicts or shows the service life cycle starting at the appointment creation, right through to reception, so greeting your customer, through to the workshop, so when the car's actually started and your technicians work on that car, through the costing and invoicing, so how that process is, how we can help it improve efficiencies through that process, then to follow-ups and reminders, so the car's gone, following up for their next service, getting them back in, reminding them about that, and then finally back to the start again for the start of that cycle. At the end of the presentation, I'm hoping that you'll be able to go away with some ideas that you can implement in your dealership today. So firstly, I'm going to start off with online service bookings. Some of you may already be aware of this product. You can see up on screen there it's playing in the background to show you how it actually works. So how does this improve efficiency and benefit you and your customers? Before I start on that, actually online service bookings was our first step toward Era Power that you saw yesterday. So it's where we first really discovered some of the advantages that we could provide to you and your customers through delivering a intuitive and flexible solution. Through each of the points here, I'll start with the first one. So it's available anywhere, anytime, which means you can use it on a PC or a tablet, a mobile device, 24/7. So it's keeping your service department open 24/7. Otherwise, your customers would have to be calling during the business hours, and then your advisors to take that phone call to book your customers in. It's apart from the reduction in inbound calls that is going to be a result of that, the next part of it is integration. So it's actually like another front end to EraNet, if you like, where it integrates completely with your technician availability. I'm just going to go back. With your technician availability, your available hours and your technician setups. So I'm going to talk a little bit further on in this presentation about making sure that availability is set up correctly so it not only flows through to online service bookings, but also back in your core EraNet application. It integrates things like shop times and public holidays, and all of this is helping to drive the product towards a more efficient booking process. Things like transport options as well. So we've got loans, weights and pickups. You have the ability to configure those, and it's fully integrated. So if a customer books a loan car online, that loan car is no longer available back in your dealership, so your service advisor can't pick that car up and double book. And importantly, it's the operation codes are fully integrated. So there's no mapping, there's no double keying or double handling, and you don't have to make adjustments back in your core EraNet application and then go and update them in online service bookings. It's all real time. Then moving down to promotion and to the promotion of specials and campaigns. So what it actually does then is it promotes or gives you the ability to promote specials. So you might want to run things like safety checks or a Easter holiday check that you can set up and promote to your customers as they start booking in their vehicle. And you can also turn on things like alerts for manufacturer campaigns, also your dealer campaigns. And the most important thing is to recommend to the customer the service that they're due for. So based on the date they want to book it in for, the kilometres they've entered, it will use a recommendation routine or a forecasting routine to then recommend to the user or to your customer what service they should be booking in for. So really, with all that, the customer is sort of upselling or choosing the options without too much effort. No double keying. So what I mean by that is your customers, when they create a booking, it actually creates that appointment completely in Eranet. So your advisors don't have to. I guess if I look at today on a lot of websites, they're email forms. So your customer goes in online to your website, types it in a service request. They don't really know what they're booking in for in terms of the complete service or the pricing attached to that. Your advisor then takes that email and has to double key that in and call the customer to confirm the price and whether they can actually get in on that day. So through online service bookings, it's real time, as I mentioned before, so the appointment is fully created. Your advisor doesn't need to double key that. And that leads me on to the next point, which is automated confirmations. So when they book, there's emails and SMS confirmations that get sent to your service department and also to the customer that's made it. You've got the ability to then edit those templates or edit those confirmation templates, apply your headers and footers, and embed your website URLs in them if you wish as well. Online service bookings is not just a tool to let your customer book, it also provides them access to their service history and the list of their vehicles. So for your fleet companies, even your family type situation, you're giving them quick real-time access to their service history of their vehicles or perhaps their fleet. Again, reducing those inbound calls that your advisors would normally have to take to provide that information to them. And the last point on there, it's not just for your customer. It really opens up the possibility for it to be used in an area such as your call centre, perhaps staff that aren't trained in Eranet yet today. I mentioned at the start it was really a step towards Zero Power, so it's got that step-by-step process. And because of that ability now, you can have people from other areas of your dealership book in cars, take phone calls, and without having to know Eranet, they can do it through online service bookings. The next slide shows a little bit of a survey I did on some dealers that are running at this solution currently, just to give you an idea of the type of benefits they're getting from it. So across the bottom there you can see the times of the day, starting at 6 in the morning right through to 11 o'clock at night, and the peaks and troughs of when the most activity, most bookings occurred. So potentially, or you can see there's a trend to start to do your bookings before hours, sort of lunchtime, and then after hours. So all those bookings that you would get after business hours, the customers are doing themselves and your advisors don't need to take those calls. So again, reinforcing or showing you how that return is really coming back from keeping those doors open 24/7, essentially. Okay, so for those dealers that have online service bookings, or perhaps now you've got some questions about how it's actually applied or how you can introduce efficiencies through online service bookings. The first thing I want to say is we deliver online service bookings two possible ways. So it's iframed into your website, which means it looks like it's part of your web page. And it's important to talk to your website provider if you do that. Choose that method, mainly because you want to provide it with the right real estate so your user interaction is at its optimal level. The other way is you can call the online service booking URL directly. So we host that and then you can call that directly. And if you call it directly, you're able to apply headers and footers. As you see up there, I've got a header up there that I've applied so far on my mobile phone, for example. I would see that logo, perhaps with some address details or contact details on there as well. So I have the dealers I've worked with. I've seen some of them where they've iframed it into their website, so it looks like part of their web page. We've applied colours and themings to suit as well. As a consumer, they really know no different. It's part of their website. But to help really guide their users down that path, I've also seen, quick links from their main landing page to directly take them to that booking page rather than drilling through the separate menus. The next screen I want to talk about is location control. So before I get started on that, you'll see right at the top there, we're using that step-by-step process. So that enforces or gives the users the ability to know where they are in the process, and also comes back to how I said that staff within your dealership may not know how to use Internet service, but they could certainly help out by taking phone calls and booking customers in through this solution. So down to the location, if you've already got online service bookings, it's important to lock the locations to your dealership webpage. So you've got the ability to display multiple locations if you're a group webpage or a group dealer. You've also got the ability then to lock them to specific websites. So I might have Pentana Motors Mount Waverley locked to a certain dealer website, and then I might have a group page where I show all of them. Attached to those, you can actually change the name. So I've called it Pentana Motors Mount Waverley in the first one there, but there's the ability to call out to Google Maps. When a customer clicks on that to go to Google Maps, your details are going to be displayed. So it's important in those settings to make sure not only that your name and address is correct, but also your phone number and emails, because that email is where the dealership notification is going to be sent as well. Moving on to making sure your availability is correct, and also the option or the ability to show various transport options. So most dealers these days have loan cars, you offer weight jobs or express jobs, or a courtesy bus ride. So you've got the ability to configure if you want to show a combination of those or all of those, and in doing so it's important then to make sure that you've got those numbers set up correctly back in your ERA setup. So coming back to that integration, if you've got your ERA setups or your Internet setups correct, then it's going to be correct on online service bookings as well. Importantly, what it does is if I selected loan car, then my availability is also refreshed based on that. So if I've got a car that I've got no cars available for next week, then if a customer wants to book in and they choose loan car, obviously that is a reflection of that availability as well. There's extra settings in loan car admin where you can turn on or off availability on a Saturday or a Sunday. So you may offer loan cars, but you don't want to offer them on a Saturday, and you don't trade on a Sunday, obviously, then you've got the ability to turn that off as well. The next page is quite important in terms of user interaction or increasing that efficiency. And it's where you can display things like your OEM or your dealer campaigns. So you've got the ability to turn those on or off. So it's where the user first goes to this, where you can alert them to say, well, I can see based on your kilometres you've entered, the age of the vehicle, that currently there's an outstanding recall or campaign. Based on the kilometres you've entered, I can see that you're due for a 60,000 kilometre service because you haven't had one with us yet. And also as a recommendation that I've set up as a dealer, I've said that you probably should get a brake fluid flush as well. So a dealer has complete and total control over those. I might not have a brake fluid flush. I might be running a safety, a holiday safety check campaign, for example. The next screen there, I'm not going to take you through every screen, but there's a couple more after this. So configuring the service options, so that's important. So again, for the dealers that already have online service bookings, configure the service options. And what I mean by that is the base codes or the operation codes you want to display. You've got the ability to rename those, so put them into customer terms. Like an O1 base, service base doesn't mean a lot to a customer, but if I call it logbook services, they know exactly what I mean. And then you've got the ability to display additional. So I've got a repairs option and I've got a specials option. Within those, you can then tailor which operation codes you want to show. So there's levels of filtering, sale types, descriptions, and so on. So you can really filter out and improve that user experience. Down the bottom of that screen, you can see that as I start building, or as the customer starts booking in, they're getting a running list of everything that they've booked in for. You've got the ability to turn pricing on or off, so looking at the setups, we need to make sure whether you want pricing displayed or not. And also, if I do charge for my loan cars, your setups back in here in our admin, that automatically apply your loan card charge till you book one out, also flow through to online service bookings. So the next screen would be where they confirm that booking. But what I want to jump to now is the portal where you see that gives your customers the ability to log in and view their history and all the vehicles they own. So it's real time. So as you start closing off ROs, it's automatically available to be viewed up on the online service portal. It's quite handy, as I mentioned before, for your fleet and your business customers. It reduces the amount of time your advisors are having to take calls to provide things like service history, particularly for those business customers. And you can have multiple logins. So fleet companies, lots of users, lots of cars, you can have multiple logins, which is their email address, or perhaps a family situation where you might have a husband and wife, with 2 or 3 cars, and they wanted to both be able to log in and view history and book their cars in. Part of the delivery process when I've been out talking to dealers is they've said, it's probably a good idea as when we're selling a car to register that customer for online service bookings. The other recommendation I get is that often when the customer's at the counter, you may want to book them in for their next service or tell them, okay, next time you can book in online, but go to our website and you can register. But we've made that a lot easier now as well, because you can actually complete that registration from within Eranet. You can see if they're already registered, you can nominate which email addresses they do want to register, and you can complete that registration process for them. So before your customer's left, you can say, look, I've registered you for online service bookings. Next time you're in your email, you just have to click on activate link and log in, and you'll have access to all your service history, and next time you can book online. So up on screen there, this is an actual video of a booking being created on the phone, and you can see how efficient it is when all our setups have been configured correctly. So again, for those dealers that are running it, the things that I've gone through will certainly help with that user experience. Making it mobile, portable, you can see it's on the phone. On the iPad, obviously it changes to suit that screen resolution, and then on a desktop, you get the full normal view. Ultimately then you get a reduction in those inbound calls because your customers have been able to book any time of the day. For those couch consumers, I forgot to book my car in when they're watching their TV show at night. They've now got the ability to do that. Your untrained staff or people that might be filling temporarily can also use this solution, as well as your call centre. And most importantly, it's real time, so no double keying. So if you want to know a little bit more about online service bookings, please complete a feedback form on the table in front of you, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you more about it. Okay, so continuing to move through that service life cycle, we're then going to appointment, managing our appointments. So how many dealers have seen or have used the 21-day appointment screen before? Yeah, so not a lot, probably a quarter of the room. So what this does, it will give you a quick snapshot or a quick overview of the availability based on hours and the maximum appointments you've set up for a department. If you saw my Era Power presentation yesterday, this is actually what will become the service advisor's home screen. It provides that single point of entry into an appointment, and again enforces that business process. So if I look at some of the numbers and what you can get out of it, the first row up there tells us that for this advisor they've got no appointments, but the 2 out of the 10 there shows me that in total for that department I've got 2 appointments booked out of a 10 maximum that I've set. The next row tells me that I've got 17 hours booked and I've got or sold and 15 hours left to sell. So straight away it gives you that information to be able to spread that workload across your departments. I often go to dealers that say, geez, one day I'm busy, the next day I'm not so busy, and it's really hard to get that consistency of work across the days or across the week. So this certainly will help you with that now as well. The other thing I've heard is, geez, I can't trust the numbers or the hours that I've got to sell. If I book right up to the maximum, I don't have enough work. If I book over, then I've got, sometimes I'm still under. So it's important to set up your technician configuration correctly with the right percentages, skill percentages and availability, because that will all flow through to this view of this diary as well. Stating the obvious, but also make sure you've got your loan cars set up correctly and the number of weights you want to offer per day, because they will also flow through to here. The other thing you'll notice is a range of colours on the screen. Now, a lot of dealers I talk to don't use work mix, and that's these three items on the bottom here, mainly because they're not sure how they work and what type of benefit they can get out of them. You can see there's a range of number of days on there that have the different colours to indicate that if I look at the Tuesday there, it's in that purple colour. So for that day, I'm reaching my maximum hours set up. Now, as a dealer, you have the flexibility to say, for my day, I want to ideally book in, say, 70%, 60 or 70% retail. Then you might say the rest of the hours I want to be 20% warranty and 20% internal. Again, helping you spread that workload out, making sure you're getting enough retail hours per day. That's where you're making most of your money. And as each day only displays one colour, the reason I've got this pictured on the right-hand side here is because that tells you in the order of priority which one is in the hierarchy, which one overrules the other. One of the reasons that we use that hierarchy is because if we're working on a total of 100% and say I'm over on my customer hours, more than likely I'll be under on the other two, so therefore that warning would apply. Of course, right at the top of that hierarchy is our maximum appointments reached, so that'll be the blue, and then if we've sold all the hours out, then these sort of become irrelevant now, and we've got an indication of that we're booked out for the day. So moving on from this screen, so again following that life cycle, it takes us into the appointment page. And for those who aren't using that 21-day appointment screen, this is the first time you've probably seen this. It's a different version of the appointment screen. It's designed to help that booking process become more faster and efficient. For simple things like displaying the full customer details, so you can see and access them quickly, update them easily, without having to drill in through hyperlinks or in and out of screens. The other thing we've done is we've introduced bay naming, so you don't have to click a button to get to Bay Diary. If you're using that, it's viewable there in the single appointment screen, and you can also rename those bays. So as you can see up on my example, I've actually renamed them to advisor names. I see some dealers that manage them by express bays, so they give them a bay name, and it's really helping or providing your advisors with more efficiency so they can control their appointments. You saw yesterday in the Era Power presentation some of the enhancements that we can now do because we can deliver in a different technology, where for your express bay, for example, you may want to block out sections of the time, pretty much like your Outlook calendar or your Outlook meeting style invites. Also, back when I showed you Era Power yesterday, I then took this appointment to the next stage, I guess, where we could incorporate that ability to capture and store photos and signatures in that appointment screen. When we're creating an appointment, often I see advisors searching for the right operation code, the right service, to filter through a list of operations, and which is time consuming, and one, to ensure you've got the right operation code, and also the right, which obviously then will reflect the right time that you're consuming in your workshop. Through recommendations, which also flow through to online service bookings, you saw that briefly before. In the example I've got up on screen there, you can see that when I'm booking a car in, it's automatically recommended me with a 60,000 kilometre service and a brake fluid flush. Now, some dealers I talk to know how those recommendations work, and some don't. So what I wanted to talk about there is how does that help your advisors? Well, first off, when they're creating the appointment, their process becomes more efficient. I get a phone call to say I want to book my car in for a 60,000 kilometre service. Those recommendations should automatically come up and I don't have to do any searching. It's pre-selected and all I've got to do is continue from that point on. If we focus on getting those recommendations right, your choice and the process becomes a whole lot simpler for your advisors. When we start talking recommendations, Synergy, another team in our company, provide services where they can add other things to those recommendations as well. So how are these recommendations controlled? So if I look at that operation code, I've got a 15,000 kilometre service up there. I can see from lines 12 to 15, I've got a range of kilometres and a range of months. So by default, when we send out our operation codes, they really have a small window of when they should be start recommending to an advisor. So for example, my 15,000 kilometre service would only start recommending, if you took our default setups, between 14,800 to 15,200. So if I was an advisor and I typed in 15,301 kilometres, I don't get a recommendation that this car's due for 15,000. And the same goes for the months. So again, if I was right on 9 months, I'd get it. If I was outside of that, I wouldn't. So how can we adjust those? In 3762, some people aren't aware that there's a setup page in there that you can use to automatically adjust those parameters. So let's make that range bigger where it starts recommending the services to our customers when I'm creating that booking in. You can see there my line 1 and my line 2 allow me to adjust how many kilometres before I want that recommendation to appear and how many kilometres after. My months, obviously, if it was a 12-month service, I want to start recommending that at 11 months according to these settings, and then stop recommending that at 30 months old. If you want to know a little bit more about those setups, please also note that down on your feedback form. What 3762 does, if you set it up there, is then when you do your next load, operation code load through 3763, you don't have to go manually adjust those parameters. It automatically reads this and adjusts them for you. So to recap the process now, we've gone through the cycle so far, we've created the booking, we've looked at our recommendations, and perhaps we now need to search for a service because it didn't come up in our recommendations. Visiting dealers, I often hear a lot of common issues that, geez, it takes so long for my advisors to be able to select the right service. They've got to go through each of the operations, they've got to check, is it an express service, is it, does it fit in the year range, is it CPS, is it not? And there's just too many choices. Potentially your advisor then selects the wrong operation code, it goes right through to the workshop, your technician does a job only to realise you've missed part of that service. So we asked ourselves, what could we do for our dealers? So if you're using Super Service menus, we actually get the build dates through that information as well now. So not just a build date, but we get a sold date and we also get a compliance date. Some of the operation code filtering has to apply on one of those or a combination of those. So we've in the latest release, if you haven't already got the latest era release, we've actually applied that build date filtering. So if it's Toyota Advantage, for example, then prior to this year, it was based on delivery date. From this year onwards, it's based on compliance date. So we've got all that smart logic in there now to filter those results down accordingly. Of course, if your vehicle that you're booking in doesn't have those dates assigned, then you're not going to get that filtering. So that's the important part to make that process more efficient. When you load your operation code, so your 3763, if you're running a Mercedes-Benz or a GM franchise, you've got the ability to bypass the express services. A lot of dealers I talk to now don't use the express services. So I can get rid of that, and on my example there, that's over half a dozen easily. If you're running Ford, Toyota or Lexus franchise, you can also bypass your severe services. So all the filtering here that I'm talking about applies to the recommendations. So imagine if I was getting recommended a 30,000 kilometre service and I had all these on screen here displaying in my recommendations. It'd be quite a task to flick through that or to filter those down. If you're running CPS or you've got your option turned on to treat a franchise as a CPS, We also provide the ability to filter those out when it's relevant to the car. So the result of all that is my 30,000 kilometre service where I had over 14 options down to one. It's a CPS vehicle, it fits in within date range, and that car's eligible for it. So that's quite a bit of introducing quite a bit of efficiency there for your advisors. Next I want to talk about loan car management. So in EraNet itself we have a loan car module. We've done some enhancements to it recently, which is why I want to talk about it as well. For those who aren't running our loan car module, I'll probably talk about some of those benefits. So I've created my booking, I've added my appointments, and now the customer wants a loan car. So some dealers want to allocate their loan car at booking time, some just want to do a reservation. You don't always know what loan car you're going to have available at the time the customer arrives, particularly if they're booking further into the future. With our current loan car solution, it actually caters for both, so you can do a reservation or you can allocate. If you're allocating, you get this view up here, where I can see the dates and times cars are due out. And if I had a customer phone up and you want to book them, give them a loan car, you can see on the far right-hand side, just up here, when that car is next available based on the date of the booking or the time of the booking. So whether they've got a one-day booking, 3 or 4 days, it'll, based on how long you need that requirement for, it'll show you when it's next available, particularly if you want to give your customer a certain grade of car or a certain model. If those dates don't suit, the show option up the top allows you to show when the next availability is with those number of days. So it will you can also restrict your loan cars to certain usages. So it doesn't just apply to the service department, it also applies to showroom. So your test drives, courtesy cars, your staff loans, you can restrict those cars to certain usages. And in turn, you can also restrict your users on what they can actually lend out. One of the examples I have is if you've got a service department where you're servicing a customer's car and the car needs to stay in overnight, all your loan cars are out, so you need to give them one, perhaps pull one off the used car lot and let them drive that. You've got the ability now to be able to add that temporarily on the fly, so you don't have to go onto your admin and do all your setups, add your loan cars, and then make sure no one else books it out. You can actually add that on the fly as a one-time loan only, so no one else can book that out. When that car's returned, it's removed from your loan car pool. While I've mentioned how it crosses over into showroom, we also cater for test drives, so we store trade plate numbers against vehicles. You can log that, so you've got full auditability on it. Obviously, they're not registered, so we can associate that trade plate number with the loan at the time. An alternative view from what you saw there is this Gantt-style chart where I can quickly and easily see when cars are booked out and when they're next available. So the screen you saw before shows all the detail. If you want a quick overview of when it's available, this new view will give you that, and that's just something we've released recently. When you allocate your cars, if you're doing your printing, whether it be batch printing or as required, the loan car agreement that will go with it, which you can set based on a template, will automatically print with it. So going back to the Year of Power presentation yesterday, it also opens up the opportunity that now to print that or to sign that electronically and store that with the life of that repair order. So I think loan car is pretty important now. I know I was watching TV the other day and I saw the Ford ad where you're guaranteed a loan car with every scheduled service. So this will certainly help you manage that. Next, I just want to talk quickly about SMS confirmation reminders. So we've finished creating that appointment and we're going to send that customer a confirmation now that their appointment's been created. Many people running SMS here today. Yeah, so half of the room maybe. So SMS will not only send that appointment confirmation, but it will also allow you to send reminders, so when the appointment's approaching, and also when the vehicle is ready. It has other functions throughout the system as well, but in service, they're the key areas that it will let you do. You can also create your own ad hoc messages, so as you can see up on screen here, I'm sending an SMS, but I have the ability to modify that template if I want to before I send it. So if you're already running SMS, it's a good idea to modify those, review those templates in 6943 to make sure you've got the right wording on there, particularly if you've got a no reply type rule that you use. So you send the SMS, but you don't want to get any replies back from the customer unless they phone you. On that subject as well, if you do allow replies, make sure you've got that reply set up. So do you want them to be able to reply, or when they reply, receive it as an email, back to a specified mobile number, or perhaps both of them? So this is going to help improve that efficiency, improve your customer satisfaction, reduce the phone calls or the need to make phone calls in your service department, and increase that CSI. SMS can also be used through Report Writer. So I'm going to talk about a product toward the later part of this presentation where you can actually use SMS to do some follow-ups as well. Okay, into workshop control. So workshop control is obviously in Aeronet service. So we've gone through that process now. The car's in the workshop, and how can we help our workshop or our workshop controller manage that work or that car through its life cycle, through its service visit? So for those who don't have workshop control, it's all about that. So it's about managing and tracking and applying statuses to a repair order as the vehicle moves through its service visit. First, I want to talk about some of the key functions in there. Recently, we've done some enhancements, so I'll cover those as well. So the first column there, you can see that workshop control will actually show me when a technician is clocked on, so I can see that it's in progress. I can see then, moving on to the next column, how many jobs have been clocked onto and how many are remaining. So as a workshop controller, I could easily say that the first job, well, he's only worked on 2 of them, there's still 3 to go. I can see on the due date column, you can see there's a red colour there, so that tells me this car's overdue. So it's past the promise time that we've given the customer. But before that, we can also apply a due warning. So we can say, alert me when it's approaching half an hour to the promise time. That's all configurable. So if you're running workshop control and you want to adjust that, it's in workshop control setup. It gives you that ability. The next area in that screen is a hold column. So this was a recent enhancement in one of our updates. You may already have it, but it may be turned off. So it's, again, in workshop control setup. And what that will allow you to do is keep that repair order on screen until such time that you no longer need it. So it really gives you a solution to perhaps a vehicle off-road or a VOR, where you may not be working on the car tomorrow, but you still want to see that repair order there, or you might be waiting on parts, for example. So this is going to help you keep that repair order on screen without having to manually carry over or change promise dates or do the imports. Importantly, though, if you want to relieve those available hours, you still need to apply those carryover hours if you want to make your availability up to date. You can apply statuses. So those statuses obviously indicate the status of the RO. There's system-coded statuses, but there's also user-defined ones. So again, through the setups, you can create your own statuses. Perhaps you may want to flag it with a status that the standard ones don't cater for. With those statuses, we also have the ability to link a car wash to one of those. So when it's linked as a car wash, it doesn't actually change the status description, because your car wash can happen at any stage of the service visit. As soon as it gets there, or when the technician's finished, or perhaps before your QA guy's taken it for a drive, you can get a car wash. When you apply that, it actually colours the tag number in the back here, so I can see that those 4 of those cars have had a car wash completed. Some other things we've done, again in workshop control setups, is you can apply a setting to make your ROs display from the promise date right through to from the appointment date right through to the promise date. So if the car's here for 5 days because you've got a gearbox rebuild, you can display for every one of those days, for example, without having to use a hold option, which is the override on top of that. So all of that's logged as well if you use that hold option. I forgot to mention earlier as well, sorry. This leads us to technician planning. So this is our service scheduling screen. On the left-hand side there, you see all the ROs in for the day, and we can actually schedule appointments as well. So there's a setting where you can turn appointments on, so you can schedule those. The Toyota dealers I've spoken to, this is quite handy for them because part of their requirement is to schedule appointments or pre-plan the next day before you've done your printing. It will allow you to allocate technicians to ROs, so multiple times or perhaps different times of the day. And importantly, on the bottom left-hand corner here, our workload. As I start doing my allocations, I can see how many hours are left to allocate to that technician. So the one with the red on the top there, I can see I've allocated more work than he's available for, so I've pushed him into overtime. The other guys have still got some more work, and if I look at the first couple, I haven't allocated anything to them yet. So as a workshop controller, you're given that transparency across the business as to how your workshop or how your technicians are travelling for the day. Now, how do we display that out in the workshop? How does the technician know how they're tracking? We have a monitor that reads all that information, and this is generally the board you display up in the workshop, which will track or show the technician what they've got to work on, what they've got next, what they're currently clocked onto, all indicated through the different colours up there. If you look in the area that I've highlighted, I can see the RO technicians clocked onto. I can see whether they're clocked onto cleaning or perhaps a non-productive code. I can see the next one down with a red that a technician is clocked on past their scheduled finish time. So as a controller, I can see, John Smith, he's still clocked on the cleaning, he's forgotten to clock on his RO. I can see that quite easily, and also can see the next technician is running overtime, so I can go and approach him and say, what's the hold up? Do you need more time? I can then make the adjustments based on that. In AreaNet, we have the ability to recover merchant fees. So again, moving through that process now, we're into the work's been completed, we're into the invoicing side of it. So through your different payment methods, you can set up credit card surcharges to help you recover some of those bank fees that you may be missing out on through your bank charges. It's applied during payment, and if I look at the next screen, this is actually a bit of an example of the type of recovery you can get on that. So if we had a 1.5% surcharge at an average of 40 invoices a day paid by credit card, 250 an invoice, which I think is pretty conservative these days, $3.75 an invoice, and if you extrapolate that out over the day, month and average figures, just over a year you're going to be able to recover that $55,000 worth of bank fees that otherwise, I guess, would come off your bottom line. Okay, so now I want to talk about future service appointments. So we've moved right through that process. We've got now to where we're invoicing the customer, we're taking that payment part, and we want to try and lock them in for their next appointment. This is a new product for us, and it kind of follows the same principle as if you go to the dentist. Before you've walked out the door, they've booked you in for the next checkup, because half the battle is trying to get you to recommit, trying to get you locked in for that next appointment. Once you're locked in, it's just a matter of reminding you, by the way, you've booked in next week, don't forget to come in. I know when I get my letters in the mail to say, you're due for your next checkup, I kind of put it to the side and can often forget about it and then realise after it's too late, I can't get in, so I'll go somewhere else. So it's all about letting this process, future service appointments, do the hard work for you. It will help you increase that customer retention. And the way it works is it will look at all the history under the current owner. Okay, so if it's a second-hand vehicle and it's changed usage, they might go from a low mileage to now a high mileage user. So it's done lots of Ks, but the car's still fairly young. It does all that calculation. It'll look at the age of the vehicle to then work out how many kilometres per day it travels. Once we've got that information, we run it through a routine that looks at that to tell us, based on those figures, when should that customer come back in for the next appointment. Of course, sometimes we don't have all that information. The car might be a transient vehicle. We might not know or may not have filled out delivery dates to work out how old it is. So it's smart enough to use one of those dates if it doesn't have both. If it doesn't have any of those, so there's no history, you haven't got any dates, It falls back to follow-up days, which are stored against the operation code to then populate when the next follow-up date should be. And as I mentioned before, it uses one or the other if it can only find one of those. If it finds both, it returns its first match. And then how it's found is communicated to your advisor by at the top here. So this is found a recommendation using both of those parameters. And I can see there that it's come back with the 50,000 kilometre service plus an interim I've got as well. It's also smart enough to say, okay, what about the interims that happen along the way? So what about the things like brake fluids and wiper blades and anything else that we've got set up for this customer or perhaps part of their service schedule? The settings you can turn on or control to say, I only want to stop and forecast major services or scheduled services. I don't want to forecast any interims. I'm not going to get the customer back to do wiper blades. So you can turn it on and say, well, I only want to forecast scheduled services, in which case when it finds the first return of a scheduled service, it'll show the interim with it. Or if you do want to show interims, you can turn that on, and then if you're not going to get them back for wiper blades, you hit the next FSA and it will take you to the next recommended service date for the next item. It's smart enough to know that the date that it's calculated, so up the top here, if that falls on a non-trading day, it'll move it automatically to the next trading day. So again, it's doing all that hard work. Sure, you could get your advisor to manually sit there and put in the next service date on what they estimate the next service should be due, but they don't have all that knowledge without going through the history on how many Ks in a day it travels, or has it changed ownership and all that sort of information. So it's really allowing your advisor to be transparent with your customer. So you can say, look, based on the mileage you do, you're a little bit higher than average. Your normal monthly intervals are 6 months, but because you're high kilometres, we actually recommend you come back in 4 months. We predict you're going to be due for a service then. So this is doing all that hard work for you. On the back of all that, we have lots of reports. So how can you get a remeasurement on that? Is this process working for you? How many customers are you able to lock away for their next appointments? So this report, standard report, will tell you, measure how many appointments you've got for a given period. How many of those appointments have we created that are through that booking process? So how many customers have we been able to lock away during their current booking process or before they've left the dealership after having their car serviced? To get a return on that, you may be booking all those customers in advance, but how many are actually cancelling? So this is going to give you that information as well. So these figures you see up here, taken from some of our dealers that I've been working with. So it really gives you some real figures on the types of returns they're getting. I'm reporting on appointments there, but I can also report on repair orders. So how many repair orders did we invoice today that were a result of booking them when they were here last? All of that information is also available through Report Writer, so you can get any variation of that through Report Writer as well. And as I mentioned before, your SMS plugs into that if you wanted to do some type of reminder using that process as well. If you were to look up a customer and they had a future appointment, we've also got identifiers to tell you that appointment was made as a future service appointment. Looking again at some real numbers. So across some dealerships, I've combined some numbers here. They're just over 5,800 appointments. Over 80% of those were made during that future service process. So that shows you that process is really working, following that dentist type book you in before you leave for your current visit. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, don't forget to write that down for me as well, please. On my last slide here, just a summary of the things we've gone through. So how does all this help you in your dealership today? How does it help you become more efficient or productive? Well, online service bookings, make sure you've got that configuration right. It'll improve your user process. If you haven't got it, then perhaps think about the advantages that's going to help or give you less double keying, full integration, provide that more efficient user process and open it up to the staff within your dealership so they don't have to learn how to use Euronet. Moving on to managing appointments, so making sure that efficiency is right on your technicians, make sure their hours are correct. That's all going to flow through from Internet right through to online service bookings as well. And make sure you got your work mix set up if that is going to be helpful to you, and also that bay naming so your advisors can manage their own appointments. Workshop control, so getting the most out of workshop control and scheduler. I showed you what workshop control will do to help you manage that life cycle or that service visit of the vehicle, and then how scheduler can help you manage those allocations to your technicians to make sure your technicians are being used as most efficiently as possible, and I'd potentially identify any other issues ahead of time. So am I going to have enough time to get all this work completed? Merchant fee recovery, so how can you recover some of those bank fees that are coming off your bottom line? SMS follow-ups and reminders, how that will help you improve your CSI and improve that customer satisfaction, and also how you can use that apart from the standard reminder confirmations or vehicle ready, also plugging into report writer reports if you have those. And then the last one, future service appointment, so how that will help you increase that customer retention, increase that or be more transparent with your customers, lock them in for the next appointment, get rid of some of that battle where you're trying to make phone calls or following up to actually get to make the appointment in the first place. They've already done that. All you're doing is reminding them. And it's based on their real data, so how far they've travelled, the averages and so on. So I hope you learned something out of today's session. There's some things there I hope you can take away with you. If you need some more information, please write them on your feedback form. If you see me around, feel free to come up and chat to me.